are.
Okay, I'm on like twice. I'm on my phone, on my laptop. There's multiple versions of me that are here. I'm gonna try to hang one of these up, and then we can get started. Apologies for being late. Store credits for all. No, I'm kidding. But no, anyway, sorry about that. And it's good to be here. Okay. So obviously, I've got some updates. I mean, Spider, you want me just to dive in? I've got sort of 3 things to cover, and then we can open it up to questions.
Yeah, that's fine. I do have a printout of questions also, and I'll try to go through them as you're talking and see if there's anything you're covering that's on these. Also ask everyone in the chat if something they think is really important is said to hit here or tell us so that we'll have a timestamp to know. So yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, wonderful. And then, of course, like other AMAs, I think each one we're iterating, evolving, improving upon. But like past ones, we'll take snippets of this and make sure that they're syndicated through Twitter. And then we're, I think, still sorting out exactly where the long form should go. I don't think we're quite at the level yet of a Quidd podcast, on Spotify. But I think we'll work on a way to get long form out there as well. So if you can't hear it live, we'll obviously want to make it a resource for you down the road. Okay, so 3 things to cover. Want to talk about some policy changes, talk about some new releases, then obviously talk about Marvel to give more clarity there to our Marvel collectors. But let me get to it in that order. So the first thing is on really after the result of like many, many weeks, if not months of discussions, on Saturday, we updated some of our policies related to banning. In some cases, it wasn't really different from how things were administered. It just was trying to clarify things further for current users and for new users. But we updated the policy, made things a little bit clearer, and I think ultimately made some changes that helps us come in line with the future of Quidd and particularly things like mintables, right? And so before I get into what those policy changes were and how it affects how you collect on Quidd, the real inspiration here is we're closer on minting. Minting is non-trivial. In effect, Quidd is a centralized service that has a certain amount of control that it exerts upon how you use the service. And then it currently stores most of those items in a centralized server. The effect of minting is sort of in effect saying, no, actually, these items are yours, and you can take them out of our centralized storage and move them into a decentralized area like the blockchain. And from that wallet that holds your new NFTs, you can kind of do what you want with them. And so it felt a little bit counter that we would be investing so heavily in these minting gateways and in not putting transaction receipts in the blockchain and calling it an NFT, but being like, oh, look, it's real, and it's not real until it's actually in a non-custodial wallet, right? Which is not one that we hold on your behalf, but actually your wallet with your private keys. And so in making those investments, we also wanted to make sure that the way that we operated the centralized service was sort of in that same spirit, where once you mint, it's yours. It's in a non-custodial wallet. It's in your custody with your private keys, and from there you can do really whatever you want to do with it on chain. You could have it sit there and store it for a long time. You could also try to seek liquidity on sort of native NFT marketplaces like OpenSea and Rarible. So the first policy we wanted to address is trying to fix this cognitive dissonance between working hard to enable you to sell on OpenSea, but then also having a past where we looked negatively upon sort of gray markets that existed on eBay. So the first update, which hopefully comes through in the new policy, is basically offsite selling. It doesn't make sense for us to police that and worry about that. Frankly, the moment, let's say the Atari stuff, like the Donna Bailey item, sort of truly goes general availability and is sellable on Rarible and OpenSea, is the moment that we're already in conflict with our old policy. So the first is regards to offsite selling. We're not going to police that anymore. So like the use of eBay for things, that's not really our territory to police it, in the same way that we're not going to police what happens in the on-chain world of OpenSea and Rarible and other interoperable environments. So we're not going to sort of police that, any sort of offsite selling. And then also too, for those that had sold on eBay in the past, there's going to be an amnesty process. We're sort of going through that motion right now to understand, who may have received a longer term ban as a result of eBay selling, and find a way to welcome them back to the community. But again, a lot of the stuff is with the moves we're making with Mintables and allowing you to put items that you care about on chain that are with your crypto wallet with your private keys, and therefore sort of portable to where you want to bring it on chain. It doesn't make sense for us to sort of attempt to even police that. And again, it's the same spirit of my existence in terms of trading cards, right? Tops or Major League Baseball, 20 years down the line, right, doesn't necessarily govern where the item can go and what you can do with it. So it just feels natural to the spirit of collecting. The second is the result of banning. We're getting sort of much more precise about what happens if someone is indeed banned, particularly in the era of the cash aftermarket, where the items have real world and real money value, and in the era of minting. So two of the areas we're looking at that I think still need to be codified fully into the policy changes is what happens if you're banned in our centralized service, but you have mintables that you could mint. The spirit of where I think we want to go in the future is that you could still log in and mint those. So if for some reason you were banned from our centralized service, but you held items pre-mint as mintables, we want to offer you the right to sort of take those items with you, because they do have the capability of being yours forever on the blockchain. The other component I should know more details about this, is the ability to withdraw funds. What we don't want to do is freeze a cash wallet, particularly if it has funds eligible for withdrawal, if someone receives a permaban. And so we're going to sort of sharpen the pencil on that a little bit to get it right. But generally speaking, with these moves to mintables, it's important that we sort of look internally and address kind of how what are the policies that we apply to our centralized service, and what are the ramifications of applying those policies. So that's sort of the first thing. Please do get feedback on that. If it's not clear on our intercom channel, let us know. And then again, just know we probably still have a little bit more work to do there, both in terms of the amnesty process and in terms of ensuring that some of those essential functions like minting post-ban and withdrawing post-ban work fully. So that's the policy change component. The next are new releases. So new releases are right around the corner. Not many weeks away, potentially even sooner. But to reiterate what's coming, the next is the 4.8 release, which has the big feature of burning in it. Burning is non-trivial. It is a right of ownership in our perspective. It's sort of creative destruction. We know it's very, very controversial, but it is very much inspired by the real world with some enhancements. If you truly wanted to, you could burn a baseball card, right? So we're adding that component in 4.8. That's kind of like the big part of that release. So to go into some more detail on that, which we'll have sort of in beta, I think end of next week, maybe within 10 days or so. There'll be two ways to burn. One is you can burn on a per item basis, which has some handy features of being able to select individual print numbers to burn, or select all your dupes to burn, where dupes are defined as everything but your low, or actually sort of burn, the whole thing. So that should be sort of a handy workflow if you want to burn on a per item basis. They'll also be burning on a bulk basis per set. We will not have that feature where you can say burn all influencers. I know there's been some calls for that. That won't be possible. You can't do that in 2 clicks. But you will be able to do it in probably less than 50 clicks, where the highest organizational element for what bulk means is basically at the set level. So not the channel level, but the set level, But even then, it's still fairly convenient to be able to say, hey, there's 8 items in this set in my album, and I just want to retain my lows on a per item basis. So tap, 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 and then you go. What's not, I don't think has been stated before is actually burning just doesn't offer the benefit of reducing supply and potentially increasing scarcity of your lows. There is a mechanic we're developing that would allow individuals to burn for store credit. Now, before anyone gets too terribly excited about this, I don't suspect anyone will get rich by burning, but I suspect that there will be some nice benefit that exists for burning your prints that sort of follows a like a natural progression of value, in the sense that we know first edition prints are more valuable than second edition prints, and so on. So that's a nice little benefit of burning. Technically speaking, burning does move prints into a Quidd furnace account, but those prints shall never be removed from said Quidd furnace account. So it has the effect truly of removing it from circulation, really, really forever. Now, we do recognize there are market ramifications of burning, right? Burning could be used by an individual collector to remove their dupes. You could have a collection that's growing, too large and unwieldy, or you could just be a certain type of collector, and you really don't want certain print numbers. So it'd be fairly easy to burn, but then the question is, well, if somebody else burns, how do you know about it? And what we've done there is we've developed a couple of things. One is this stat of count in circulation. So it's not just sort of the print count, which is the number of how many were sort of quote unquote manufactured. It's also, well, how many actually exist, which is kind of the net of print count minus the number that has been burned cumulatively up into that point. And we're going to wait and see. We don't know, but it could sort of factor in that actually count in circulation becomes the more important number for the actual scarcity of an item than how many were originally manufactured, like 3 years ago. And to that end as well, every item detail page, or rather every print detail page, is going to have another section in it beyond just info, sales history, and I think format. There'll be a 5th section, sort of effectively called like population report or circulation report, that will be able to show all collectors' status on the top prints per edition. So you'll have the clarity to know, okay, actually someone, you can shake your fist, right? Someone burned number 3, right? Or someone burned number 22. You'll be able to see that and get a sense of, for those high value print numbers, what the unique status is. So we're super excited for this feature. That this is weeks, certainly not months away. The next one's web access. We've talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's an essential step before we basically, I think in general terms, sort of start marketing, right? It's important that we can allow people to see what Quidd is and get a sense of what can be bought and sold and what can be collected on Quidd without first having to download, install, and create an account to see it. So that's like just, maybe it doesn't blow everyone's hair back who's already got an account, but in terms of a necessary step to double, triple, quadruple the user base, right, and bring in new users, that's a fairly significant one. And then the last one is obviously mintables. That's the third path that we're on right now. General availability is closer, and there is still more work to do. And again, the whole point is that we can open it up to general availability, where any collector that has a print that has the mint a mintable label on it can, without talking to anybody, without connecting with the Quidd customer service team, go through the steps, whether it be automatically integrate their crypto wallet address or go through the actual minting workflow where they select the chain and the smart contract, can actually seamlessly and easily mint basically at scale. And so we've got to make sure that that's perfect and really understandable, really explainable. We've also got to make sure that when the mintable is minted and is an NFT in your non-custodial wallet, right, like with your private keys and listable on OpenSea and Rarible, that it looks great and it's merchandised really, really nicely. And if you choose to seek liquidity on those markets, that it's going to look pretty sexy to do so. So still more turns in the crank on mintables, but we're going to hold back a little bit on telling you everything because there's a few components of it that we think are particularly exciting, and that's obviously in the works. Last one's Marvel for my update. So let's talk about Marvel. There was obviously the announcement midweek, I think it was Tuesday, about delisting the Marvel items from buy sell. So just zooming back on this, look, we love Marvel. We're fans. We're collectors. We've worked with them for now over 4 years. I think we were the first digital collectibles license and the first sort of licensee that they chose to work with in this space. Then I think Topps, then I think a few others came on board. Over that 4-year period, right, we've got millions of collectors. We've produced thousands of sets, tens of thousands of individual items, multiple product types, digital stickers, digital trading cards, digital 3D figures, like in partnership with Funko. So Marvel is obviously a huge part of Quidd, and we ourselves are personal Marvel fans. However, we've evolved, right? If anyone's used Quidd as an OG over 5 or 6 years, you can get a sense of how much we've changed. I like to think that we've evolved in the same way the baseball card market has evolved, where something that started really just for fun, where you might wind up putting something in your bike spokes, right, or trading at recess, has sort of evolved into a much more mature market that really has a market that ascribes real world value to these objects. Basically, as authentic digital collecting as you possibly can be, where authenticity is defined by how does it stack up against physical collecting. So we've, really evolved, really pushed, who we are and what we are, and we're going to continue to do so, right? Obviously, with cash account and the ability to withdraw in a fully AML compliant manner, every week if you're eligible. Plus, obviously, with getting portability and permanence and moving to the blockchain, what Quidd is today is very different than what Quidd was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, or 6 years ago. So yeah, and that's also not changing as well. Like I would expect our drop mechanic and our approach to inventory is going to change even more dramatically in the future. But basically, all that said, in conversations with Marvel, they had asked us that we alter the exchange method, or how items are transferred between collectors in basically of items that are in circulation, and that we revert back really to the spirit of what Quidd was in 2017, 2018, which is far closer to a transfer model or a trade model than there is a buy and sell model. So in conversations with them, in partnership with them over the last many months, we've basically developed a way to bring back some of the spirit, but not all the spirit of trading as it existed back in the day. In effect, developed basically a totally free, totally instant transfer method. So individual collectors on Quidd can send individual Marvel prints to any other individual collector on Quidd. And so this is about 10 days away. This is going to come when 4.8 comes out with burning. And this sort of frozen nature of the objects that are officially licensed by Marvel in your collection, that will free up with the 4.8 release. And the way in which you exchange those will be different. It'll be much more akin to trading and transferring, or rather like bartering. And maybe, Jules, we can make some notes to put some, we can put some screenshots out there of what the feature actually looks like.
That would be.
I think that would help maybe like assuage some concerns. But I would say it's not, so to set really proper expectations, this is not the full return of trading where the interface will look identical to what it looked like in Quidd 1.9 or Quidd 2.0, right? So the actual interface will be different, but I think the spirit is the same in that exchanging items, sending items, gifting items, instantly transferring a Marvel print that you own to any other collector in the community can take place in like 3 taps and less than 5 seconds. So you'll be able to freely move your Marvel items around between collections with the 4.8 release. And so that I'm excited about restoring that, right? Because it's not good to have the items frozen, right? But I'm excited that we'll restore that, and that the idea of sort of getting liquidity and moving those Marvel items around, via this transfer and sort of bartering method will be restored fully to all Marvel collectors in short order around the release of 4.8. And I'm sure that obviously the announcement with Marvel and sort of the reversion to sort of transferring probably raises some questions. That's obviously understandable. But what I'll say about what we're focused on for the future probably is the best of what I can comment on, is ultimately that we are very interested in a lot of the verticals that are out there and a lot of the exciting licenses that are out there. So nothing to announce yet today in terms of the new license, or let's say the new vertical, but we're a bit like a duck, I would say, where it looks kind of smooth and above the water, but underneath the surface there's quite a lot of movement and motion and energy that will, I think, soon be exposed. So new drops with new brands, well, obviously that's in the works. In terms of technology, we're very focused on the marketplace tech. There's a lot of liquidity we still need to add to our collectors, new drop mechanics to work out. And with regards to minting, I wouldn't consider this first wave of minting that's coming sort of imminently to Ethereum as the last work that happens there. There's obviously a scaling out of adding support for more chains, right? We're interested in Wax, interested in Flow, interested in Solana, Polygon, other layer 2 solutions. Interested in, outside of that, we're also very interested in sort of deepening what it means to have a real NFT on chain, and building amazing smart contracts and getting as much of the collectible to be in your true ownership in your crypto wallet in the near future. So I can't speculate on Marvel really for on a go forward basis. It's not really my position to do so, but I can say that the team is laser focused on sort of both the content side of things and the technology side of things. So that's a lot I threw at you there, Spider.
Yeah.
So what else?
Covered a lot of things though. So I mean, I've got a bunch of other questions, but I think you covered everything on the Marvel aspect, because there was a lot of Marvel. The only Marvel question that we haven't really touched on is that there were apparently chases or a reward that was supposed to come for certain chases and certain sets in Marvel that were never given. And they were wondering if that would ever be able to be given out. I'm assuming probably not, but I'm wondering if we couldn't with another form of reward, since they did spend money on them.
Yeah, I think we could trade it to them somehow or transfer it to them somehow, and that would be
Think
okay.
so?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is I know it feels like a change, but I think that what we'll find is with the 4.8 functionality, in some ways it'll feel familiar. In some ways, there'll still be a free flow of items to be transferred back and forth. I don't know if it's going to be faster, more liquid than the current buy sell that we have, but I feel like this notion of transferring prints, to accounts, for frankly deals you've worked out with that other collector is going to be pretty efficient and pretty slick. But no, let's take offline the question of the awards. I don't think that should be a problem. I think it's more of an issue of doing the manual work, right, to make sure it happens, because over the years, how many awards have we done? Not a small number.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's probably a good thing then, that they may still get it. I think. Now I think some people are concerned in other channels and whether they should worry about that.
I don't think so. This is the first instance of this where we've been asked to alter functionality. And I can't speak to things that are confidential, right? And pretty much everything is confidential as it relates to working on licensing partnerships. But this was a first of its kind that we were I think very willing to work with Marvel on. It doesn't raise concerns for me with any other content that's currently in the application. Again, there's knock on wood, but the probability I think is low based on everything we can look at right now.
And something I think we should hit on. You guys are worried about. I think this is a scary thing because they have so much Marvel stuff, and you guys aren't going to lose your Marvel stuff. It's all going to stay in your accounts. Nothing is being taken away. It's just the feature with Marvel is you'll still have all your items though. None of it will go away.
Yeah, and I yeah, exactly. And I think that I mean, look, there's a number of reasons why I think the direction that we're going is the way that it is. And I really firmly believe that the role that we're going to play in this space is being the biggest front door for collectors, for no coiners, to get introduced into the blockchain and into NFTs. And I think the reason that is we've got a very large community in the millions, right, that have fallen in love with their items, that have gotten used to the behavior of digital collecting, which, let's be honest, 4 or 5 years ago really wasn't in the ether. I think there was stuff that Topps did. There was stuff that existed sort of as side pieces in games, and then there was obviously us. But I think ultimately what's cool is our role is we're one of the places that can really sit down with a community that doesn't know the blockchain and doesn't know NFTs and hasn't set up their first crypto wallet and really explain the benefits to them in terms or in metaphors that make it an obvious no-brainer, right? So the idea of making items that you bought a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, mintable, in the sense that it can go into your crypto wallet and it's yours. It's really alluring for us because it's a huge benefit to you guys, and it's also a massive way that we can, increase the size of blockchain users and NFT users, because we're applying that technology to solve a real need, right? The way that we thought about these products from the very beginning was it's like selling T-shirts, right? And you want to be able to buy a T-shirt and store it in your closet and not have a worry that 4 years later someone's going to come into your closet and take it back, right? That just really breaks down the notion of what it means to truly own something. And it turns out with the blockchain, there is a way to guarantee that from a technical standpoint, right? Where if it's on chain, I like to think it's better preserved. If it's on chain, I like to think the collector can have a greater sense of permanence. And I don't think that this sort of connecting to the blockchain and sort of minting of NFTs and multi-chain approach and sort of working hand in hand with our community to get them to sort of adopt this technology, I don't think that this is something we would have done 4 years ago or 5 years ago. A, because this technology didn't really exist, right? We have existed before NFTs. But B, the relationship I think our collectors have with their items has evolved and changed over the years. And I think the relationship is very organic. And it's a lot like the evolution of the physical trading card market, where, again, something started out as a fun, entertaining activity to connect with intellectual property you loved and meet like-minded fans who also love that IP. But I think as time goes on, and as maybe items become more scarce, a market exists for them where they move from being kind of fun playthings into valuable collectibles or valuable assets. And I mentioned this in the last AMA. We feel like we have a burden. Watching the aftermarket transactions that take place and watching how our collectors are valuing these items in real money terms, it's a burden for us to not be able to offer even more security and even more confidence even more permanence, that the money you spend is yours and can be withdrawn, right? Which is why we've invested a lot in that infrastructure. Or the items you own are yours and you can have them forever. And again, one of the great ways I'll stop rambling, but one of the great ways to help guarantee that, that particular notion of permanence is to help even the most blockchain averse individual to make and mint their first NFT. So I guess what I would say is we've always believed this is real collecting. We've always believed this is going to be a form of collecting that will be better than cardboard and plastic. But to do so, we have to offer you the same confidence of permanence, and that if you're going to spend money on a digital collectible on Quidd, that it's yours, and or you can even make it more yours by minting it as an NFT.
To start with some of the questions we've had built up this week.
Let's do it.
These are easier, so not take as much time. With the removal of coins next month, will the floor for cash listings lowered? After all, some items don't sell at 10 cents, so perhaps a lower price might work.
We don't know yet. And for full transparency, we are, as I've mentioned on previous AMAs, we are thinking about the sort of mid to low level inventory problem and how those can be effectively transacted where they can sell even if their value is like 5 cents, right? One of the first attempts to give you all the tools to deal with that problem is actually burning. Burn for store credit, right? Maybe there isn't a market for your 4th edition number, 10,000 out of 125,000, right? It's not unrealistic to think that's going to be hard to move, for 10 cents, right? And lowering it to like 5 cents also may not make that move. And it also may not make it worth the seller's time to list it, right? And so that's not unusual either. eBay has that problem as well, right? There basically is this invisible floor where the product sort of value can't go below it because it's just not then worth listing. It's not then worth shipping. It's not then whatever. So one of the ways to address this is around burning. We don't know what's going to happen with burning. It's up to you. But we may see more later editions wind up getting burned as a way to convert that into productive resources and spend on other things, right? The other way is we've talked about bulk sales a lot. What I would say, there will be a second thing outside of burning that we do this year. We will make it happen this year because we're so excited about it, where bulk sales will take place, where it's a single transaction for a large volume of prints, or for an opportunity to get a large volume of prints. So with the removal of coins, there's nothing planned today to alter the minimum for cash listings, but there are a lot of discussions of other solutions that can exist to deal with that problem, where the ROI of listing something for what its current value isn't quite there for the seller. So maybe not what the community wants to hear, but there are, I think, multiple levers to pull to solve it. We're focused on other levers because we do agree that it's a worthy problem of us solving.
Any chance of getting the full account sale price minimum lowered?
That's really just a function of staffing. And I would say it's not out of the question. There is just a price that goes too low where it's not worth sort of the ROI. Which is why don't we take that offline? Because that actually is that's the ultimate bulk print sale, right? It's the largest way one could define it when you've got a buyer and seller, is literally taking all the seller's prints, right? Let alone a random grouping of them. And so why don't we take that? Let's take that into like the notes and have a conversation on that. Because what I would say, just for full transparency to the community, is we did a few of these up front, And what I don't know is the last time we did one, did it actually get more efficient than the first time? I don't know if that's the case or not, but it may have been that it actually did get more efficient, and it may have been that it can actually be worth our while to process a higher volume of these at a lower value for the transfer. So very good question, and the answer is not out of the question. And what I would also say is it's technically developed. It's just now needing to look at the ROI for actually operating those transactions.
With changes coming, will we still be able to gain rewards being active, such as better VIP awards, daily login rewards?
Yes.
Basically, like, yeah, okay, you got it.
Yeah, and this is the point that I think I horribly communicated in the past. The transition from a coin-based economy to a cash-based economy or a token-based economy in the future doesn't mean that rewards that can increase spending power, it doesn't mean that those go away, right? And I've always liked to think that you can avoid a pay-to-win environment, but still have it be a cash-based environment, if that makes sense. In other words, the existence of virtual coins, like the old Quidd coins, that's not what really enabled the start of Quidd to be free to play, in my perspective. And so what we can do is we can actually create ways for collectors to do incredibly well by earning their way there, but that can exist on top of a true cash-based economy or a crypto token-based economy. So yeah, that was a communication error on our end, because it became perceived by the community that the phasing out of coins actually meant that this would become kind of like a greedy, ruthless, very exclusive, high stakes only experience. And I will say that that's really not the spirit of Quidd. That's not how we all collect, internally. And so, yeah. So yeah, I think that, and we actually had a call about this yesterday, right? But ways that we can preserve, that path of like, of earning more ways to collect, and then also collecting and then earning from having collected.
We collect quite a bit, and more of those with rewards.
Well, I mean, it's just really obvious. Like, and I'm sorry to say it's obvious, but like the pieces are there that just need to be connected, right? Store credits exist, and store credits could be connected to a recollect award type. Right?
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, you're winning a recollect, and you're then given spending power that can be used for the next drop or used to buy other items from the cash economy. And some have experienced this. We've sort of experimented with that a little bit, kind of manually, just to learn what the response would be. So I would say, look, my response is somewhat abstract, but what I can say is we are looking at technology, and we've actually rolled out technology very publicly that you could look at and say, oh wow, they can debit someone's account with stored credits. That's useful in the cash economy. That exists. It's publicly available. You can see it. It's not too far of a leap to say, well, then let's now connect that to a daily retention bonus or to like a recollect reward type. I'm not going to say that we're going to do it, but it wouldn't be unusual, and it wouldn't be like something technically that had to get built from scratch.
Will it be possible in the future to see usernames associated with wish list wishes? I can't talk today. And would it also be possible to report wishes that we'd consider to be unreasonable? Question.
We've addressed the wish list name issue, I think, in the past. And I think what we'd said is that we want to ensure that the name isn't turned on by all by default, and that the individual wisher has an opportunity to keep their identity as it exists in the app anonymous. Now, we're not fully faithful to that because wishes do appear on someone's profile, but they are somewhat buried, and the person seeking that out has to really be motivated to seek it out. So what I would say is, if we did it or not, we would have to first give the wisher the ability to control the presence of their identity as it follows the wish around.
What about the part about reporting wishes we consider unreasonable? That's something we'll add.
Potentially. I think there are probably two ways to skin that cat that are on the roadmap. One would be giving the owner of the item that receives the push notification about the wish match, or even the wisher, giving that person some control as to what communications they see. Because I would imagine it would be pretty annoying to get a push about like a wish match, but the price is outrageous, right? So I think one way that we would want to deal with that would be giving more control over what communications you see, so that spam wishes, right, are less of an annoyance. So it's sort of like you could potentially solve the problem upstream, where it's not like, hey, let's report a bad wish, or kind of a disingenuous list price where the seller listed into my wish at an insane price point. It'd kind of be less of like, well, let's maybe not tackle it by reporting it. Let's actually tackle it by just reducing the annoyance of what the person on either end sees, right? So I think that would be one. The other thing that might solve that is on the roadmap, that might shuffle around a little bit and still is sort of being arm wrestled about internally, just is this idea of maybe even going a little bit more full-on bid system and allowing for there to be escrowed bids, or even escrowed bids that are time-bombed. You may decrease the incidence of sellers putting in bogus list prices for a wish if the decision isn't just like, hey, list into it. It's like, well, just hit the sell button, right? So switching that up and making that a little bit firmer may actually result in fewer incidences of the seller being like, hey, someone really wants this, I'm going to put $10,000 as the price point, right? If that seller instead looked at like a time-bombed bid of like $100 that was sitting in escrow, and if their decision was like, well, I can like accept this, or like the bid will expire, they might be more apt to just accept it and complete the transaction, as opposed to insert a faulty list price, or kind of a bogus list price. So where it's happening, our data shows it's not actually happening too much at scale, but I would say it's more of like, we've got some other ideas for how we might tackle the problem upstream or downstream than just the idea of like report a bogus wish. Because at the same time too, if you report a bogus wish, you still have to deal with it. Whereas if we can solve the problem upstream or downstream, we might not have to have like a manual approach to the solve. Okay, cool. Spider, what else do we have? I've got like 3 minutes, and I have to run.
A couple of Marvel ones that I didn't see.
Yep.
Will we be able to exchange or trade Marvel for other brands?
Currently, no. You'll be able to send out. You'll be able to send out to any other collector the Marvel print. So I can send you, Spider, any Marvel print I want, anytime I want, at any quantity I want, whenever I want, as fast as I want. But then having you send me back Star Trek, that's not possible.
And with Marvel, will it affect full account sales? Will we still be able to transfer a full account for people that sell them?
Yes, indeed.
And can they burn Marvel content from Burning Co?
Yes, they can.
That was the Marvel stuff.
Let's go. Let's make this a rapid fire segment of the AMA.
Oh, I'm trying. I have like 20 pages.
That's what we should do. You know what? That's what we should do. We need to create some fun little mini formats during the AMA that keep the excitement level up. So let's go. Rapid fire.
In the past, you said there wouldn't be filler in cash sets. Now that we're moving to cash only, will there be a certain threshold for sets to not have filler?
I don't know what that threshold would be, but I think what you've seen we've done is move more towards CEs. So even the filler itself, I think I shouldn't say filler. Okay, I shouldn't call it that. Even the sets that have high print counts, I think you've seen are mostly CE that come out. And if that doesn't answer the question, Jules, let's talk to the merchandising team about that. But the way I've seen the plans drawn up and the way I've experienced it is we've made things more CE, such that the higher volume items that are kind of surrounding the insert retain the value better than if they were, infinitely produced. Next.
Going through things. It's part of the upcoming launch of 4.8. Will there be any fixes to Android, like where they can use custom storyboards and custom backgrounds on their listings?
I do not know. Can you add that to the notes, Spider, and we'll follow up? Next.
Can the Quidd community borrow Tim the Enchanter again soon?
We need to do it. We need to do it. Well, for fixes, and we got to. He's listening in. I think he's always listening.
Is he?
Always watching. Always judging. I'm sure I'll get some.
He should be talking.
I'm sure I'll get some feedback from him offline. But no, let's put him front and center one of these AMAs, because I do think whether the audience for this are new users and new collectors join the community or OGs. Either way, what Tim and the engineering team has built in terms of an inventory system is really incredibly cool and sophisticated. You don't really see it anywhere else, and so there's just a lot of cool tech that I like to geek out about. And Tim can talk about that. Also, Tim the Enchanter is as much the driver of product as I am, so he could probably give a very, very complimentary, if not better, perspective on some of the new features that are being built. So, yes, sign him up. Okay.
Yes, we need to actually get him into the next AMA. So
I agree. I drag his old bones out here. Okay, can we do?
I will.
We can do one more, then I really do have to run.
Okay, so this one's kind of a good one. Any users on Quidd are unverified with the new tax laws. Does that mean all these accounts will need to get verified when meeting that threshold?
From what we've seen going through the KYC process to verify your ID with Passbase, does not impact whether or not we have to submit a 1099 or 1098 for you. It would be nice if that were done, but that's actually not the data that we're going to use to send the tax forms in January 2023. So I would say those feel related, but they're unrelated. So what that basically means is if you have generated over $600 in sales proceeds and you're a U.S. person and it's calendar year 2022, we will still have to find a way to get properly encrypted end to end and not stored with us your address and some other data to send you the proper tax form. But that is actually unrelated from how we do Passbase. So they feel together, but they're separate. And so yeah. Okay, wonderful. All I
throw in one more. No,
I can answer. We can do a late night session tonight, but I have to go. And then I just want to say thanks everyone for being part of the community. Hopefully these AMAs get better week over week over week. Spider, we got to find a way to maybe do some sentiment testing to make sure we're getting better and serving the community, right? And not only the answers better, but you guys hold us to the fire, that we're delivering against what we say we're going to do. And so
I stay on with EHM after and answer questions in here that we didn't get to that I know the answers to. Okay. So that also
do it. I love it. Go.
All right.
Well,
have fun.
Yeah. Last thing. Yeah. Thanks all again. I'm so glad you've chosen to collect with us. And I'm thrilled that, we have the privilege to keep building this marketplace, keep doing set drops, keep making amazing content for you guys. And what's in store is the most excited I've been about Quidd in 5 or 6 years. It's going to be a fun 2022. Okay. Thanks all.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.